75% of the world's population lives in urban areas, a proportion that is expected to increase to 68% by 2050. This will require all sorts of solutions to address the issues that will arise. After all, these people will have to eat, shop, work, and that raises challenging questions about mobility. We have here in this panel the founders of CEOs of two companies that, despite addressing very different needs, are helping to make cities more safe and sustainable. Parker Treacy is co-founder and CEO of Cobli, an IoT and camera technology for vehicle operations. Cobli has a team of 400 people, more than 5,000 customers, and raised 65 million from funds such as SoftBank, Fifth Wall Ventures, and Qualcomm Ventures. And Tony Migliore is founder and CEO at Moova, the G20 winner scale-up that reimagined logistics. Moova has developed the largest footprint in Latin America in only 4 years, with its technology organizing sustainable logistics in 9 countries and growing. Tony, Parker, thank you for joining us at this session today. And I'd like to start by asking both of you to explain what mobility issues your company solve. So, Tony, why don't you start?
Thanks, Andrea. Thanks, everyone, to be here. If you think about that, e-commerce develops 24/7. So as we speak, people are filling their shopping carts, purchasing, and so every single minute, different packages are being added to a net that has to be delivered. So traditional logistics is not prepared to do so. What do? Is to take advantage of the idle capacity of the vehicles that are already delivering and add them new packages as they deliver. So that's a way in which we contribute. Not only we do not have any vehicle, but also we do not add new vehicles and we deliver. So we have this KPI that shows how many vehicles are not added to the streets, even when the e-commerce is growing. And we are measuring that. Like in 2021, it was 200 vehicles avoided to be added. In 2022, was 550. What does that KPI mean? E-commerce grows, the streets don't. So you have to figure out how to distribute with the same vehicles, vans, and cars that are actually delivering. And that's what Moova do.
So beyond efficiency, it also helps the planet, so it's much more sustainable.
That's correct.
Cool. And Parker, why don't you tell us a little bit about Cobli?
Of course. Thank you, Andrea. So at Cobli, we are trying to connect the offline world with the online world, right? And we do that by selling an IoT platform, so which is essentially we are putting sensors on vehicles, everything from GPS to accelerometer, all the way up to camera technology into these vehicles, collecting that information so that any sort of vehicle operation, whether it's a telecom company, an energy company, a last mile delivery company, a healthcare company, whatever it might be, we can help them in 3 main pain points. How to make your operation more efficient. If you're a last mile delivery, you want to make more stops per vehicle per day. If you're an ambulance company, you want to minimize your emergency response time, we will help you do that. 2 is we help you be more efficient operation. So how do we consume less gas? How do we have fewer driver infractions? And how do we have a lower total cost of ownership of the vehicle? And finally, driver safety, right? We are trying to bring the number of accidents and driver deaths on the road to 0.
Cool. So let's talk about a hot topic here at Web Summit, which is AI. Apparently, it plays a critical role in both of your businesses, but in different ways. Tony, can you explain how AI is used at Moova?
For sure. Today, we are all of us is speaking and learning about ChatGPT, which is OpenAI. We are learning about that. We are working with that. We are thinking how this will change everything. And we are actually in Moova implementing our first ChatGPT OpenAI stuff. But actually, our kind of companies use AI since the very beginning, which is much more narrow AI. That means you produce your own algorithms to deliver things. And we do have many. As an example, as I told you, Moova does not have any vehicle, so we need to attract the fleets that are on the streets and we want them to work with our platform, with our technology. So we have to give them value. How we give them value? But by giving them much more packages to be delivered. So the thing that we do is we have produced a bot that understanding certain parameters, what is attractive to a person that is delivering. We take the full volume of packages that have to be delivered and produce tours, and that tours are a combination of pickups and deliveries, and we offer them to the vehicles that are delivering, and they pick them up. Similar to a Uber thing, in which they choose the driver to be delivered, but this is much more dense because they are picking like 15, 16 packages in a row, 20. So one thing that we do with AI is that we also have a different bot that has created like a neural network effect. This is great. This is because what I'm saying is very important. And yes, and we have a different bot which is artificial intelligence also, what it's doing is understanding the estimated time of arrival of a package. So after millions of packages delivered, you know how much time it rests to go to a place. That this avoids people not to be at home receiving the packages. So there are many uses of AI that we're using there.
Cool. And Parker, how do you use artificial intelligence at Cobli?
So we have a number of different use cases today using AI. So basic examples on our video technology. How do we automatically recognize that Parker's the driver of that specific vehicle? How do we automatically recognize that Parker's looking at his phone or smoking a cigarette or not using his seatbelt while he's driving to alert him so he doesn't have an accident, right? Or even externally, how do we confirm that that driver arrived at the proper work site? How do we confirm by reading license plates of certain vehicles in the area, right? So there's a bunch of very cool use cases, but I want to pull the AI conversation back a little bit because to us, you can't, if a company doesn't have consolidated data, like if you go to a logistics company or a telecom company, you say, what technologies are you using to manage your data warehouse? And they say, what's a data warehouse? AI is not useful for them, right? And so a lot of the problems that we actually solve are really saying, how do we bring basic information for you to make commonsensical decisions, but based on real information? Like I would say our biggest pain point that resolves is that when a customer calls you and you answer, I don't know, that's what we're trying to solve. We're trying to give you data in your hand. The AI is if you think of just kind of the hierarchy of sophistication of data, the industry that we're in is at a much, much lower level. If everyone had a consolidated data warehouse, the AI conversation would be a little bit richer. Hopefully in the next 3 or 4 years, hopefully when Cobli is, becomes the biggest IoT platform. And so I'd say it's much more about creating data warehouses as opposed to creating fancy algorithms on top of that data today.
Cool. Well, Latin America is known for its huge infrastructure issues. At the same time, we have big urban challenges here, having 2 major cities like São Paulo and Mexico City, for example. How do you operate in such a diversified territory in a seamless way? Tony?
Well, that's correct. Sao Paulo, Mexico are huge cities. Also Buenos Aires, 12 million people live there. But actually, if you see it in a different way, there is an advantage for our technology because as many people live there and e-commerce develops within the cities and the cities don't grow, you have much more concentration of packages in shorter routes, in smaller spaces. So this allows us to create better routes because the shorter route, the most frequent that the driver has to stop, the higher the volume of the packages, the more the money they make. So these big cities produce also big opportunities to optimize. It's much easier to optimize in such a mess rather than in smaller ones. We are growing much faster in bigger cities rather than small.
In which countries are you operating now with Moova?
Our technology is running logistics in 9 countries. This was done in only 4 years. We operate in 6, and we have a white label franchisee technology in 3 ones and are opening another 2 ones. So yeah, we are like the biggest, largest footprint in the region in terms of technology for logistics.
And Cobli, Parker, are you based in São Paulo? How are you looking at Latin America scenario?
Yeah, today we're based in São Paulo. The entire team is in Brazil. We serve customers in every state in Brazil. We have about 5,000 different customers, almost 100,000 vehicles in our base. We're the largest light vehicle telematics company in Latin America. And we will most likely start international expansion to other parts of Latin America over the next few years.
Cool. I would like to ask about something interesting when we think about the future, autonomous delivery. We've seen some experiences in Colombia with QueryBot, and recently Nuro has been partnered with brands like Domino's Pizza. How do you see autonomous delivery happening in Latin America?
Well, I have a particular vision on that because I know that it's happening. But remember when all of us were speaking about drones and people thought that drones will deliver everything? That makes no sense. Drones are good to deliver some things to different spaces because it's so expensive, such a mess to deliver one package with a drone for a place. But they are very useful to some particular deliveries or some particular packages. I think that autonomous vehicles will be like the same thing. Today it's much more like a marketing effort rather than a real thing to solve hundreds of thousands of deliveries, but they will live together with the vans, cars, trucks, bikes, motorcycles, drones. They will be part of the whole thing. That's how I see that. As soon as they are completely there on the streets, there will be a narrow part of the whole thing.
And you, Parker?
Yeah, and what excites me is the technology for automated cities is here, right? Like the drones work, the AI works, all of our communication systems work. The limitation is that we're dealing with 21st century technology, and the human brain from an emotional and social standpoint is made in the Paleolithic times. And so I think what will prevent the expansion of this technology is that human and social systems will prevent it, right? Some few funny anecdotes. I follow a lot of like Instagram accounts of Brazilians living in the United States, and there's a really funny one called like Brazucas nos Estados Unidos. And it's just them making fun of really advanced things in the United States. And if that happened in Brazil, oh my God, it'd be a joke. So they posted the Coco delivery drone, which is like this little drone that drives around and like delivers food to you. And the Brazilians, and it's just a video of a Brazilian filming this and posting, be like, imagine this is in Brazil. This thing would be like robbed and destroyed in like 5 seconds, right? It's like filled with like hundreds of dollars of value and stuff like that. Just Brazilians making fun of how incapable it would be in São Paulo. Or you take most of Latin America, every employee in Latin America must be part of a labor union. Do you think labor unions are just going to allow like the mass automation of just removal of many, many employees? I think that's going to be very hard, right? And so I think the limitation will be emotional and social human dynamics will prevent this much more than technological limitations. The tech is here, but the value is not being created.
Amazing. How do you see the different ways in which the pandemic changed the city dynamics, the urban, the way that people behave, their purchasing habits, many things that started, that changed during the pandemic, and it still remain today. Do you think that now, almost 3 years into the pandemic era, things have settled down? Or are you still expecting major changes in consumer behavior, which will certainly affect your businesses?
You want to start, Sam?
Yeah, sure. So whenever the change in consumer behavior from COVID, I always call it like the Uberization of expectations, right? It's like a huge feature that we sell, especially to last mile delivery fleets, is just their ability to create a link that they can send via WhatsApp or they can send via email, and the end customers bought some e-commerce item can click it and just see the car arriving in real time as if it was an Uber. It adds no value, right? Like he can already say, hey, it's gonna arrive in 1 hour. You don't need to see the car. But creating this like exceedingly precise expectation around the user, we build features for that. And obviously everything the user wants, everything we build is fundamentally downstream from that user preference. And so I do think the over-sensitized Uberization of consumer expectations will decrease, because I think a lot of features were built that aren't solving massive problems. And I just gave one from Cobli that we built that people love, but it doesn't fundamentally solve a pain point. And so I think it'll come back to a balance that will be, I think society and logistics became oversensitized in COVID. And I think we're kind of starting to put a few more calluses on our hands right now to understand is like, what are actually things that move the needle from a customer value standpoint.
And Tony, your business really benefits from this rush. Like people want everything on their own time. They want things delivered same day, especially if you're in a city like, I don't know, São Paulo or Rio. You can really buy things and receive in the same day. That is good for your business, right?
It's good and bad. And going a little bit back to the pandemic, exactly beginning of the question, what pandemic I think learns us the most is that we actually don't have a clue of what's about to happen, or what will happen in the future. Remember December 2018 when we are go toasting with our friends and end of the year, nobody of us thought what is coming, no? So we don't know what is coming in any way. That's my kind of way of making decisions regarding the future, automotive or whatever. Pandemic shows that to us, to be much more humble in terms of what we say will happen in 10 years, 5 years, whatever. And in terms of the business, the last part, yes, for sure it was a real bust for us because we were growing and then everyone was at home, that they need product to be delivered, and then we grow a lot and we expand. Everything became much more effective because you can have conversations in real time in different countries. But then it gets also the con, which is that need to be everything to be delivered right away. You actually don't need that. So I think there will be a balance, as Parker said, in terms of what creates value and what not. And I think that the driving seat is in terms of the ones who are selling, the marketplaces. They can offer you want this in the next 2 hours, it costs X. You want this tomorrow or maybe later, it goes differently. So different solutions will be created different on different needs as we work away.
Cool. Tony, going back to you, you won the G20 Global Startup Innovation League in 2022. What kind of technological leap can we expect in the near future for logistics, and what, in your point of view?
Well, thanks, Andrea. This was the question I was waiting for. I think we are running out of time. Can I talk about this? It was amazing last year for us because what is this G20 innovation competition? G20 are the 20 countries in the world that are invited to some decisions. There are the G8 plus, and Mexico, Brazil, and Argentina are represented there. So Moova was selected after a funnel of many different stages to represent Argentina. 2 years in a row, 2021, 2022. What are you doing? There is a competition with one company for each one of the representatives of the G20. So you compete with UK, Japan, Germany, France. It's a very tough one. And last year, 2022, we won. We actually won. And we are for sure happy to have achieved that. And I think that we won because we have a different way, sustainable way of doing things. So logistics needs to be reimagined. We say that we reimagine logistics for a sustainable world. The things that Parker is doing, we are doing at Moova are that kind of new solutions for a new problem, which is e-commerce. So I think that the future of logistics is what we are doing now. What we are actually doing today, what will be the future. So the huge couriers have to adapt to this new kind of market. They were produced like 2 centuries ago, 1 century ago for a different problem. I think that that's the kind of leap that we will see in the future.
And just good to see Argentina beat France in the finals once again.
Cool. Parker, you defined Cobli as a fleet tech. Why is video technology so important for the future of fleet and logistics? logistics, and what's ahead for Cobli in the near future?
Sure. So, look, at the end of the day, we're trying to put sensors onto everything so that everything that's not naturally digital can communicate with the internet, right? And if you think of all the sensors, like at our most basic point, we put GPS and accelerometer chips onto vehicles. And the most complicated part, we put in cameras. And the amount of problems that you can solve first with just attaching a sensor to anything is like mind-blowing. If you sit here and just have like a brainstorm and be like, if I put a GPS chip on anything, the amount of problems you solve is really, really cool. But it's multiplied by like 100 or 1,000 when it's video, right? Like even in Cobli today, like just to give you a sense, today we cover 95% of all public roadways in Brazil. We have a camera feed. Every 4 days, we cover every single public roadway in Brazil. By November, we will have real-time surveillance of every public roadway in Brazil every 24 hours. So obviously today we're very focused on driver safety. We're very, very focused on having our fleets be more efficient. But imagine if every single time we knew the location of every single vehicle in real time throughout Brazil, because we can track license plates, we can track vehicle numbers, we can track everything. Right? Imagine when a customer, when a fleet vehicle arrives at a work site, they have the entire work stream of that work site in real-time video. I know if someone's using their PPE, their protective equipment. I know if someone's not authorized to be on a work site. I understand what even if it's a factory, what the throughput time of that actual production line is simply via camera technology. And so cameras are the final frontier of sensors, and we are trying to be a sensor company that covers the entire built world.
Amazing. It's a huge amount of data that you actually end up with.
Yeah, I'm making camera technology sound, I guess, excessively sweet and accessible, but you have to do a lot of things like edge computing, which means like basically computing on the device as much as possible, just because the data transmission cost of us submitting real-time video feeds of every device as multiple high-definition cameras would be pretty excessive. So there's a lot of infrastructure, edge computing, data streaming things that are very, very big challenges of making camera work. And most of our time is spent much more in building that platform and having the infrastructure be very robust. Obviously, we do cool AI stuff as well, but the AI is really, after that system, is as robust as it can possibly be.
Okay, we did it. Thank you so much for this session today. And thanks to our lovely audience for showing up. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, all of you.
Thanks, everyone.